Hello everyone, no time no see. It's time to review the lessons. So the lesson five. We are on the lesson five and explaining and clarifying ideas. As part of your argument, you may need to give explanation. You can do this to explain the meaning of a key term, explain the context for your ideas, or explain a complex idea in a simpler way. A question I'm often asked is, how do I know when I needed to explain idea? Explain an idea when and how. In lesson 4, we wrote about the topic of homelessness and the issue surrounding this topic are generally the same in many parts of the world. However, this is often not case, which is why your ideas sometimes need to be explained further. For example, when you're writing about eating healthy, one person might make you following arguments. Mhm. It's important to eat fruit every day because it contains vitamins that keeps us healthy. Therefore, I completely agree with this idea that schools should encourage all children to eat fruit. However, someone with an intolerance to fruit who gets a severe stomach ache and skin problems after eating it may right. Eating fruit makes people feel unwell and it even affects the ability to work. Therefore, I completely disagree with the idea that schools should encourage all children to eat fruit. Anyone without the same intolerance is likely to confuse it by the first statement in this argument. Again, language plays a key part. This is not a fact that is generally true for everyone. Yet the use of the simple present suggests that it is. Using the modal verb may can attract as well as the words and phrases like sometimes for some people helps to clarify ideas like this. For example, for some people sometimes eating fruit can make some people feel unwell and it can even affect their ability to work. Therefore, I completely disagree with the idea that schools should encourage all children to eat fruit. In this version, the writer has presented a fact that logical supports their argument and helps the reader understand why they hold this position. Your test question will sometimes do this too. There are now millions of cars on the road in the most big cities. Pollution from cars is the most important problem that big cities face today. To what extent do you agree or disagree? The first sentence in this writing task presents a fact to support the argument being made in the second sentence that this type of pollution is the most important problem that in big cities. Okay. Fact and opinion. It's important to be able to tell the differences between a fact and opinion. A fact is something that can be objectively measured and verified, while an argument or opinion cannot. In the test question, we know that the first sentence is a fact because we can verify by counting the number of cars on the roads. We cannot verify the second statement because it's opinion. We can only discuss it and decide whether it is a valid argument or not. This is what your essay must do, which helps to explain why there is no right or wrong answer in task 2. Key idea. In writing task 2, You will be presented with an argument that you must discuss and respond to. There is no right or wrong answer. The question will sometimes include a fact that supports an argument being made. You do not need to discuss this fact, but you should not ignore it. It is there to make the context for your essay clear. Clear. Great. Okay. Perspective. It's important to be aware when you are writing about things that are universally or generally true. And when you are writing about things that are only true for you, this matters how bigger ideas too. Your city will not necessarily look at the same as my city. It and it will not operate by the same rules, which are based on your culture and history. Thus, your ideas on city living, society, and life in general will reflect your own background and experiences. And when you are writing, you need to help the reader see these issues from your viewpoint. Perspective matters. A picture and B picture. There's a guy near the tree. There's a guy near the house. Mhm. There's a guy far from the house. There's a guy far from the tree. To the person in this image, the tree and the house appear large or small and easy to see or difficult to see depending on where they are standing and what is happening around them. This neatly illustrates the meaning of the terms viewpoint of point view and position. Thus, a rich person who has always lived in a luxurious Penth- penthouse will not have the same perspective on the city life as a homeless person living in the same city. Similarly, someone with a served food allergies will not see the topic of food and diet in the same way as a person without these problems. If you live in a city where the justice system is unfair, you will inevitably affect your opinions about this topic. So you need to explain the context, your argument when discussing this issue. If you are writing about traffic problems and you live in a very busy city like Ho Chi Minh City, you need to help the examiner to see that the problem as you can see it from your perspective. Okay, you can do this by explaining the context from your ideas like this. Crime and punishment are extremely emotive issues in my country where blah 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 the traffic is in traffic in my city is blah blah blah. So okay, language note. In academic writing or when writing about a serious issue, we often begin by defining key terms. This can help to explain the context for the ideas in your argument. For example, if you are writing about the topics of success, you could begin by defining what this word means to you or in your culture, which may be different to the examiner's interpretation of the word. Sometimes we rephrase an idea in order to make it clear. For example, in the lesson 4, we wrote, many cities have more people than houses. This means that many people do not have anywhere to live. In my planning, I used an equal sign to represent this. Many cities have more people than houses. Equal, many people do not have anywhere to live. Rephrasing the issue in this way helped me to show a different way of looking at it. It changed the focus and helped to highlight how this issue affects the people involved. Other phrases that can be used like this area, that like that, use it like this are. Mm-hmm. These are. This means, which means, in other words, whenever you use these phrases, what follows should be an explanation or a different way to interpret what you have just said. However, The verb to mean can also be used to show a consequence or result of something like this. Increasing house prices means fewer people can afford to buy a house. Here I would use an arrow to show the connection between these ideas. Increasing the house prices, fewer people can afford to buy a house. Hmm. Oh, okay. Below are some extracts from band 6.5 essay that use these phrases, but no, but only some of them are used correctly. On your worksheet, write out the plan of ideas in extract 1 to 4 using an equal signs or an arrow to connect them. Decide whether the underlined phrases are used accurately and whether the writer is explaining the meaning of something, clarifying an idea, showing a different way of looking at an issue, showing the result or consequence of something, explaining the meaning of something, clarifying, explain the meaning of something, clarifying an idea, showing a different way of looking at an issue, showing the result or consequence of something. One, if you have a lot of money, you can buy whatever you want, which means that food will never be a problem for you. In addition, sharing the cost of education and healthcare would also prevent people from taking it for granted. This means that having to pay for the service is equivalent to being more sincere. 3. Local business might suffer as they do not have the resources to beat off competition from multinational companies, and they might be eventually put out of work. This not only means a loss of jobs, but also a loss of traditional products, which is cause for even greater concern. 4. Um, the possibility of finding the same shop selling the same variety of items in almost every corner of the world can be alarming. In other words, every country has its own culture with its own particular food, which allows to identify it from every other country. Let's see the answers. Is it possible? No, it's not possible. Okay. 5.3 Jumping to a conclusion. In writing task we saw the argument about pollution in cities is a logical conclusion to reach given the fact about cars. When candidates do not allow enough time for critical thinking, they tend to jump to a conclusion that doesn't seem logical to the reader. The phrase jump to a conclusion means reaching a quick decision when you don't have all the evidence you need or before considering the evidence. Here is an example of this. John has arrived late for work every day this week. Clearly he is not committed to this his job. The first sentence is verifiable fact. Verifiable fact. We can check the time that John arrived at work every day. However, we the second sentence jumps to a conclusion about what this fact tells about John's attitude towards work. There are several reasons why John may be arriving late, such as problems with transport, a problem or illness at home. He may even have arranged with his manager to stay late to finish an important project and start the day later than normal. The fact in the first sentence requires a further investigation before a valid conclusion can be reached about what it means. Similarly, in the writing test, if you do not stop to think, you will not gather evidence needed to reach a valid logical conclusion that you can then explain clearly. Even more importantly, if you jump to a conclusion about what the question means, you are likely to lose marks for task response. Key idea: take time to think carefully about question. Do not jump to a conclusion about what the question means. If you are interpreting the question from your own perspective, be sure to make this clear to examiner. Below is a paragraph from an essay sent to me by a high-level candidate who would like to score band 9 in writing. I have made a language correction so that we can focus on the argument and task response problems. Read the paragraph and try to guess what the topic of the writing task. First, let us consider the disadvantages of this trend towards driving more. Driving. If people drive more and more, our fossil fuels are likely to be depleted in a way in a very near future. By 2015, it is estimated that human beings will have used up all of the natural resources if people keep using their vehicles more. Spending more time driving to work also means that people will have less time at work to do meaningful tasks. If it takes a person about 30 minutes to get to their destination, then they will lose approximately 15 hours a month. That invaluable amount of time could be better spent. In addition, the more time people spend driving, the more carbon emissions there will be in the atmosphere, which will further exacerbate our current environmental problems. First, let's consider the disadvantages of trend towards driving more. If people drive more and more, our fossil fuels are likely to be depleted in a very near future. By 2015, it is estimated that the human beings will have used up all of the natural resources if people keep using their vehicles more, more. Spending more time driving to the work also means that people will have less time at work to do meaningful tasks. If it takes a person about half an hour, 30 minutes to get to their destination, then they will lose approximately 15 hours a month. That invaluable amount of time could be better spent. In addition, the more time people spend driving, the more carbon emissions there will be in the atmosphere. Which will further exacerbate our current environmental problems. I found it difficult to follow the logic this argument. I couldn't understand how fossil fuels and natural resources could be logically connected to losing work time. The writer had originally contacted uh, contacted me because he was concerned about the need to explain ideas. He said he often resulted in him writing over long answers. Looking at this paragraph, I was initially concerned that these ideas needed to be explained even further. However, when I saw the question, I began to understand the problem. This is what the task said. Many people are now spending a lot of time traveling to work or school. Some people believe that this is a negative development, while others think there are some benefits. As you can see, driving is not mentioned at all, but work is. The writer had spent a considerable amount of the paragraph explaining the issue that is not mentioned in the question and trying to connect this to the issue that is mentioned when I asked why he had written about driving, and he told me that he lives in a very busy city with a major traffic problems where the vast majority of people drive to work or school every day. His perspective led him to interpret this question as Um, Everyone is now driving even more than traveling to work in his city. The logical effects of this are that fossil fuels are being depleted, the traffic is made worse, and work time is also being lost. Also, you are being asked to use your own knowledge and experience to answer the question. The examiner needs to help to be help needs help to be able to see the issue in the same way as you do. What changes could you make to help the examiner see this candidate's perspective more clearly? On your worksheet, rewrite the paragraph so that the perspective is clear and the argument is logically connected to the issue raised in the question. When you have finished it, look at my version in the next page. Okay. First, let us consider the disadvantages of this trend. In my country, the vast majority of people drives to school or work. Therefore, if people are spending more time traveling, this means that they are also driving more and more. Because of this, our fossil fuels are likely to deplete in a very near future. In addition, more and more people, and the more people drive, the more carbon emissions there will be in the atmosphere, which will further exacerbate our current environmental problems. Spending more time driving to the work and schools also means that people will have less time to work on important tasks. If it takes a person about 30 minutes to get their destination, then they will lose approximately 15 hours a month. And that invaluable amount of time could be much better spent if people were able to shorten their journey. Points to notice. We can now understand the perspective and the result. The argument is clear. I use it the phrase in my country, and then this means to show a different way of looking at the issues raised in the question, one that reflects the perspective of the writer. I have changed the order of some ideas so that they are organized more logically. I cut the sentence by 215. It's estimated that the human beings will have used up all the natural resources if people keep using their vehicles more. I did this because it is not necessary. The point about fossil fuels has already explained it, and it's not directly connected to the original question. Going off on a tangent like this will reduce the task response score. We will learn more about this in later lessons. So extra practice. Mm-hmm. Look back over your past essays and scan of them for the phrases, in other words, this means or which means. On your worksheet, write out any sentences like this and replace the phrases with an equals sign. Help you decide that whether you have used it accurately. Did you use the phrases to explaining the meaning of something, clarifying an idea, show a different way of looking at show the result of consequence of something? Do you need to make any changes in previous essays? Have you referred to your own town or city, or given a personal example? If you have looked back at the explanation you gave, do you think you do you think you explain it clearly enough to help the examiner to see your perspective? What changes can you help make this clearer? Thank you for your attention. This is our end of our first lesson. Ciao for now.